And that's okay, let me turn the lights off back here. And let me officially start the meeting. Okay, let's get underway today. First, a few announcements. Upcoming meetings. Next Friday night is our tabletop workshop with Deb Zimmerman. Deb has, for those of you who haven't done that before, an incredible selection of tabletop items, including things very similar to that skull. So it's usually a fun time, a lot of macro work, and they're usually very well attended, and that's next Friday. And then one of the Friday after, one of the rare times, again, the clubhouse is closed for the holidays, December 23rd. After that, December 30th is our first critique night. I know that's by the holidays, and I know there's other things, but even if you're not going to be here, submit some pictures. You could do it anonymously. Like I said, if you want like Facebook, if you want praise, just put praise in the bottom corner too, and we will. But we're going to have a panel here. There'll be audience participation. Submit up to 4 photos. Just email them in. They don't have to be resized at all to info@clevelandphoto.org. And, we will get them up then, and that should be a fun evening. So that's December 30th. January 6th is our People competition, which is a print. There is going to be a speaker before that. We're not quite sure who. It might be me. I'm sorry. I'll try to make it a really just engaging topic, but we'll have more information next week on that. But the People competition, January 6th. Our next SIG meeting, first Thursday of every month, January 5th with Dave Bush. Low light photography. This includes concert photography, night photography, any kind of high ISO shooting. And then, as usual, we break into camera-specific groups, Nikon, Canon, Fuji, whatnot, Sony, to go over individual camera-specific items with Dave. We're in the middle of getting entries for our next exhibit, Beechwood Public Library. The deadline is December 28th, so still a lot of time to get in images. The theme is reflections. Any reflections in liquid, gas, metal, other reflective materials and subjects are eligible. One member had a really good question. I'm sorry. They say, what about reflection like thinking? No, I don't think so. Unless you do it in front of a mirror, in which case I gave away that's a good shot. A double reflection. But information is on our website about that. Winter classes are now enrolling. Fundamentals of Good Photography, all starting in January. Intro to Photoshop Photo Editing, and Intermediate Photoshop Photo Editing, which we only offer once a year. All starting in January. You could sign up for those on our website. The Cabin Fever Party, which I've repeated ad nauseum because I want you to sear that date into your mind there. January 21st, it's a Saturday, so there's no excuses not to be there. Robber's Auction, lots of fun. It was an annual tradition. It's been off because of COVID. It's going to be like a potluck. There'll be a lot more information on the website about that. And then finally, this and all of our public meetings are on our YouTube channel that you could watch anytime. When you go to our YouTube channel, which you can get through our website, homepage of our website has a YouTube icon. Click on that. It'll take you to YouTube. And on YouTube, click on the live videos. And those will give you all the selection of all of the things that we have up there, and you'd be able to watch that. So let me get our video things set here and up. Okay. Bear with me. Talk amongst yourselves. I think we're all set here. Good. And I want to introduce then Gabe Wasylko, who is going to be speaking to us live today. He's a Cleveland-based photographer specializing in the various facets of landscapes, portraits, and sports photography. And since picking up the camera in January of 2021, you heard me correctly, 2021, I am impressed. Gabe's made it his goal to capture the beauty in each and every day, posting at least one photo a day to his various social media platforms. Whether it is beautiful sunrises or vibrant night photography, Gabe has found inspiration in the Cleveland area and the people who call it home, and has worked to authentically showcase his hometown through the lens of the camera. And I was recently told that he was just interviewed for the upcoming edition of Cleveland Magazine, Their Most Interesting People, which they do yearly, which is really an honor. So congratulations. And without any further ado, let me introduce to you Gabe.
What's up, everybody? That was quite the intro. I mean, I'm not that interesting, so I hopefully can live up to the hype, the nice intro. But as you can see on the screen right here, my name is Gabe, and I am a Cleveland landscape photographer, and I'm excited. Hopefully my mom's out there watching on the stream. She wasn't excited enough to come in person. So thank you so much for coming in person. You know, Mom, you're missing out because it's a real cool vibe here. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to go through. I was honored to be invited to come speak with you all and to go through some of my background, my journey with photography, some tips and tricks, and hopefully answer some questions. So my big rule when I speak is I want people to be able to take something from that. So whether it's a question that you have at the end or hopefully some of the information I can share, my big thing is I want people to be able to walk away with something, even if it's, hey, that guy was really annoying that was talking to me. That could be the situation. So without further ado, we'll go in and talk a little bit about photography. And you have to start, hopefully I can do this right, background. I'll talk a little bit about where I've come from and a little bit of my background. So I was born and raised in Brunswick, Ohio, so right down 71 South, probably about 20 minutes from here. You guys are from the area. You know where Brunswick is. So I grew up in Brunswick, Ohio, with my two parents. My mom, who owns a gift basket company, so it's around the holidays. I have to give her a plug. If you're looking for gift baskets for Christmas, holidays, New Year, hit up basketsgalore.gifts.com. You won't be disappointed. So that's my shameless plug, Mom. I hope she is watching. But my mom, who I owe a lot to, she's my inspiration, my role model, and she really, from a young age, showed me not only you can do anything that you put your mind to. She started her business from our home when we were growing up, but also that creative mindset. So I really look up to her. And then my dad, too, worked in video in PR for Ernst & Young, our local school district in Brunswick. So he definitely had me around the creative field at a young age as well. As I've grown up, I don't know if anybody out here has this thought or feeling, but I wanted to do nothing like what my parents did. I wanted to get as far away from the creative space as possible growing up. So I thought that the farthest place from the creative space growing up, going through high school and going into college, was the medical field. So I said, I want to be a doctor. That's probably what every 18-year-old person who wants to be successful says is, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. So I went down that path of pre-med. Realized one semester into my time at the College of Worcester that medical was not for me. Definitely not a field that I wanted to go into, but sports was. So I loved sports growing up. I wasn't good enough to play, but I definitely enjoyed watching sports with my family and enjoying that aspect of life. So actually, when I was in my latter part of high school and going into college, I started interning at the Akron Rubber Ducks, the minor league baseball team of the Cleveland Guardians. I started working in their creative field, and at this point I was just looking to get something on my resume to differentiate myself from going to college. If I was going to go into the medical field, if I was going to go apply for scholarships, I wanted something on my resume that made me stand out a little bit. So what doesn't stand out more than a rubber duck on someone's resume? So I started doing that when I was 16. I started as an unpaid intern and then moved into, was actually hired on part-time my senior year of college. My mic keeps on falling off. I guess my ear isn't big enough for a good size here, but I started interning there, moved on to be a part-time staff member of the Akron Rubber Ducks just as I was going off to college. And I switched from that idea of wanting to go into the medical space to I want to be a sports agent. So went throughout my time at the College of Worcester and ended up graduating with a degree in mathematics and political science with every intent to go to law school. Guess what? That did not happen. I actually was offered a full-time job with the Rubber Ducks my senior year of college and started there as their full-time creative services coordinator. And at this point, too, I wasn't fully into the creative space. I didn't even think about photography at the moment. It was all about, I'll try this for a year, see how it goes, see if the creative space is something that I could live with doing as a career, and then if it's not, I'll go to law school in a year. So I ended up going through that first year, and it was a tough year going through, starting a job, finishing up school, but I really enjoyed and found a lot of satisfaction and fun being able to be at the ballpark, be around the creative field, whether it was video editing, graphic design, all that fun stuff. That was something that I really enjoyed doing. So from there, I said, I don't have a background in video. I don't have a background in creative services, but let me try everything I can to learn as much as I can. So after that first year, I started really devoting a lot of time to learning anything I could about cameras, about photography, about graphic design, about a bunch of different things. Just really trying to catch up on a lot of things I missed from not majoring in it in college. And from there, I fell in love with the creative process and really trying new things. And one of those new things I tried was photography. So in January of 2021, I picked up my Fujifilm X-T4, which I mainly used for video and interviews and things like that, and said, hey, let me try to learn some photography. Let me learn a different technique. And the way I did that was I challenged myself to post one photo a day onto social media just as a way to track my progress and get better as time went on. So in January 2021, this is also in like the height of the pandemic. So we're all at home. We're all not doing much, especially working for the Akron Rubber Ducks in December. It slows down quite a bit because it's the off season, and especially coming off of a year without baseball. I had a little extra free time on my hands. My dad actually had COVID at the time, and I really turned to my camera as a way to kind of focus and take my mind off of the stresses of life and learn a new skill. So that's when I started posting one photo a day, and the response was kind of crazy. I didn't really understand. I've lived in Cleveland my entire life, but I really realized as I started to pick up my camera and shoot that I didn't really know much about my community. I didn't know what was right in my backyard, and what I didn't know was I looked at Cleveland and probably what a lot of people think about Cleveland. It's cloudy 10 months a year. There's nothing cool here. The sports teams always suck, There's a lake that no one swims in. There's a beach that no one goes to. You've heard it all. I don't have to say it, even though you get a couple laughs here and there. But I really started to see that, what was in our backyard was something beautiful. There was a beauty in every single day. And being able to capture that through the lens of my camera was truly an honor and something that I really enjoyed doing. And using photography as an outlet really helped me connect with other people that felt the same way about Cleveland. That we're a passionate group. We love our city. We love what we are. I mean, we are Clevelanders through and through. If you're from Cleveland and you meet another Clevelander, it's something to celebrate. And that was something that was really cool, and what I really tried to kind of let live through my photography is that joy of capturing the beauty, in a city that isn't as glitz and glam as LA or glitz and glam as New York City. Cleveland has a lot of cool resources. The lake is a fun thing to photograph, and people do go swim in the lake. And the river did catch on fire, but it's not going to catch on fire again, hopefully, knock on wood. So it's all these different things that really we have a lot of things that to be proud of in our backyard, and being able to photograph that for the past 2 years has been a real treat. So that's a little bit of background of me. During that process, I actually started working and moved on from the Rubber Ducks to work at Destination Cleveland. I don't know if that's my mic right there or not, but a little short. Awesome. But I moved on from working with the Akron Rubber Ducks. I actually now work with Destination Cleveland, the travel and tourism agency in Cleveland, Ohio. So we're all about celebrating Cleveland and the things that make it great and things that make it beautiful and the people that make it such a great place to live, work, and call home. That's my spiel for Destination Cleveland, but really that's the same model that I have through my photography, is really celebrating those little moments in life that make things beautiful. So that's a little bit of background on me. Hopefully no one's falling asleep just yet. Let's get into the fun stuff, the gear, because everybody here I know has cameras. Everybody is probably a frivolous shooter of a certain brand. Let's just get a show of hands in the crowd. People online, I don't know if they can participate. They're not here, so they don't get to participate. So people in the crowd, raise your hand if you're a Sony shooter. All right, we got a couple of Sony shooters. Nikon. Oh, we got a lot of Nikon shooters. Okay, so I know who I can't talk to now any moving forward. Canon shooters, any Canon? Oh, actually a decent amount of Canon shooters. Panasonic, anybody shoot Panasonic? Oh, only one. Oh, Olympus. Okay, we got 2 Olympus. It was Olympus. Okay, we got 3 Olympus shooters. It was Panasonic. I was going to have them leave probably because, you know, they're not welcome here. Any Fujifilm shooters? Half. We got a couple Fujifilm shooters, right? A few. All right, Olympus and Fuji. Well, cool. Those are my favorite people because I am a Fujifilm shooter. So you basically told me who I can be friends with now moving forward. So thank you so much. But let's get into a little bit of the gear that I use because, like I said, I'm a Fujifilm shooter, and really the one thing that Fuji will always hold a special place in my heart because it's the brand that I really fell in love with photography, and I really understood the foundation, fundamentals of photography and everything that I'm doing. Should we switch? Yeah, we could switch. Sorry, we got a little. Let's see, is that better? Is that better? Testing. I think we're good. I think we're back. All right, thanks everybody for that short little lull in time. But yeah, let's get into the fun stuff, the gear. So I am a proud Fujifilm shooter, and that's really the camera that I fell in love with and really enjoyed shooting photography on. And it was cool because, I mean, I don't know if a lot of photographers can relate to this, but when I first started shooting photography, I legit just put it into automatic and said, hey, let me see what I can find. I had no idea what aperture and ISO and shutter speed and just different techniques of photography. I had no idea what that meant. And Fujifilm was the first brand that I really understood and started to find a good understanding in a lot of that stuff. So my first camera that I did, or I picked up and used and really fell in love with was the X-T4. So this is my first camera. Absolutely amazing camera. I can't say this enough. I know I might not be able to sway too many people, but this is the one camera that I fell in love with photography on, and it's because of the dials up here and just how it's lightweight, it's fun, and from there it was really I was hooked, and that was kind of the first camera that I really started to dive in, and that kind of started my photography journey back in 2021. The camera I use right now every single day when I'm shooting landscapes is the GFX 100S. It's a medium format camera, so a bigger sensor, and it's really nice, especially on landscapes, to have that flexibility too. It's still a decent size. It's probably not that much bigger than any Nikon cameras out there, so if you're looking to switch, this is a nice kind of camera. It is a little bit more expensive, but this is the camera that I've enjoyed using the most when it comes to landscapes. The details, the opportunities to be able to zoom in and do different things with different lenses, and also I use this a lot for portraits as well. So this is one of my favorite cameras to use, and really helped me take that next step in my photography journey. And last but not least, and this is actually a recent pickup from a couple weeks ago actually, but it's the Fujifilm X100V. Now, one of my favorite lessons that I tell people all the time is being a landscape photographer, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to this too. You have a ton of gear. You have many lenses, tripods, camera bags, wipes, cameras, whatever. There's so much gear that goes into photography. If you're looking for a cheap hobby, this is not it. Like, you all know that. But the one thing that I really live by is really the best camera you have, and it took me some time to learn, but the best camera you have is the one that's always with you. So like, phones are great because they're always with you, but also I really didn't want to miss moments throughout my life, and really traveling and going around. I didn't really want to miss those moments. So that's why I picked up this camera. It's cool. It's vintage. It's kind of not really vintage, but it looks kind of vintage. But small, compact. I'm actually going to a trip to San Diego on Monday, and this is the only camera I'm going to be bringing because I don't want to pay for extra luggage or anything like that on the flight, and I'm scared that it would maybe lose. But so this is kind of that's the rundown of the cameras. And then when we're looking at lenses, I have a 32 to 64 millimeter f4, which is really the camera or the lens that I use the most when it comes to my landscape photos. I have a GFX 250 millimeter f4, which is great too. It's a prime, so you can't zoom in and out, but it's a great opportunity. One of my favorite things, and we'll get into this a little bit down the road, but one of my favorite things to photograph is the moon. I love moon and astrophotography, so that I use quite a bit to get shots there. And the TT Artisan's 90 millimeter f1.25. Now, this isn't a Fujifilm lens; it's a TT Artisan. It's a third-party lens that has a mount for Fujifilm, but it's a great lens. I use that for a lot of my portrait sessions that I do with clients, and I am amazed with the results. It's also an all-manual lens, so you have to start to get really good at manual focus and focus peaking and those fun techniques. But it's a fraction of the price. This gear can get a little pricey, so that TT Artisans is like, I think, $400 or $500, which for a medium format camera is a really good price. So that's my kit over there for Fujifilm. And then when you look at the X-T4, I have a 10 to 24 millimeter f4, which is probably the lens I use most for my X-T4. It's just super wide. You get a lot of opportunity to capture a scene, a vast scene, but also it's super small and compact. So not compared to the X100V, but that 10 to 24 is just such a versatile lens, and it's easy to travel. I mean, that's what this is right here. It's a 10 to 24 and on the X-T4, and it's not super big and bulky, so it's a nice combo that I like to use there. The 50 to 140 millimeter f2.8 and the 200 millimeter f2 are what I used when I shot sports photography a lot with the Guardians and the Rubber Ducks. I don't use those quite as much right now, but they're super solid lenses, and I can't say enough about Fuji. So that's kind of my kit that I use in both situations. And then we get into some of the other gear that kind of isn't as fun and technical. Teleconverters are super important, at least for what I do. You're getting that extra reach, so they're super nice when it comes to sports, shooting the moon, shooting different subjects. Teleconverters are great to utilize. Camera bag, again, I know a lot of people probably have camera bags if they have cameras, but that's something that I enjoy using, and you can fall down a wormhole of so many good camera bags over there, so definitely recommend that. I have a tripod, which I utilize more times than not just for a lot of long exposures, a lot of different shots, so a good tripod's something that I definitely recommend. Flash, and then these are just some different other items that I utilize, like a jacket. I'll give a story later on of a shot that I got where a jacket was extremely important, so I legit have a jacket in my car reserved for when I'm going out to shoot, just because of this one situation. So I'll give a little insight there in a second. Towel, cloth, you never know if you're going to be in a situation where your camera gets wet or your lens gets wet or you get some junk on your lens, so being able to have that opportunity to kind of clean it off when needed. L brackets are super important. I love using it, especially if you're going to use a tripod. Can't recommend an L bracket more, as well as extra batteries. You never want to go to a situation where you're out shooting, you realize that your camera's on low and your batteries really aren't sufficient. So definitely extra batteries are a big plus. So like I mentioned, I do a lot of landscape photographies. Do we have a lot of landscape photographers in the crowd? All right, we got a couple. Cool, perfect. And if not, hopefully I can sway you to do some landscapes. It's my favorite type of photography, so definitely a little bit biased there. But when you're looking at landscape photography, my favorite times to shoot are sunrise and sunset, just like the scenes that you can get early in the morning. Now, it doesn't always bode well in the middle of the summer where sunrise is at 4 o'clock in the morning and you have to wake up and pour your coffee and you realize that you're half zombie when you're driving to these locations. Definitely not safe, so don't tell my mom that, but sometimes there's been some early mornings and late nights, so definitely it's worth it though with a lot of the scenes that you see in the morning around the city. So these are some of the apps and websites that I use when I'm planning for sunrises and sunsets. One of my biggest tips that I mentioned, I'm going to drop a couple tips here and there along the way, but my planning for my sunrise and sunset photography, and really any photography, starts the night before. You never want to be in a situation where you're trying to grab all your gear and plan for a scene moments before it happens, or even an hour before it happens. Sometimes those spur of the moment shoots happen, but if I'm planning on going out in the morning, I'll start planning the night before. And that really starts with checking these apps. So one app that I use, at least my preferred weather app, I think it's going away here soon, but it's called Dark Sky. I used it actually when I worked with the Guardians and the Rubber Ducks, and it was the most accurate weather app. If you can imagine, the weather in baseball is definitely something that we're monitoring because we wanted to see if we're going to get our game rained out or something was going to happen. So definitely this app, at least I found, compared to the Weather Channel, AccuWeather was the most accurate. So take that for what it's worth. Definitely Dark Sky is one of my favorite. Sunset WX, that's actually an app that I use probably every single day, if not multiple times a day. It looks like this. So it's just a free website, sunsetwx.com, and it's not super accurate, or I don't know how accurate it is, but at least more times than not, it doesn't steer me wrong. And it basically lets you know the quality of a sunrise or sunset before it actually happens. And things change and weather changes, so definitely take it with a grain of salt. But essentially, I don't even know if I can do a laser or something like that, but where it's super red and warm is normally where they're predicting a good sunrise to happen. So as you can see, this is for tomorrow morning, and it updates at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. every single day. So or 1 p.m. in the afternoon, 7 p.m. in the evenings for the next morning, 1 p.m. for that later that day. And I go on there if I have time to shoot and want to plan something. I'll go on and see where the colors are, but this is for tomorrow. As you can see, it's kind of white and blue. Might not be a good sunrise tomorrow. But again, like I said, take it with a grain of salt, because there's been times where I've gone to bed saying that it's going to be cloudy and not good, and I wake up and all of a sudden outside my window is a beautiful sunrise, and I'm like, damn it, why did I listen to this stupid app? But that's something that I use, and you find a lot of comfort too in cross-checking it with Dark Sky. This is another thing that I found super helpful, at least for me, is I recently moved closer to Cleveland, but back when I was living in Brunswick or in Akron, I planned to go up to Cleveland to shoot some photography, whether it was sunrise or sunset, but I didn't know what the sky looked like, or the sky looked completely different in Akron compared to what it did look like in Cleveland, or vice versa. It could be raining in Cleveland, it could be sunny in Akron. Who knows? But something I did find is a network of webcams and weather webcams that are out there for basically anybody to look at. They have a sunrise cam that's off the shore of Lake Erie that I utilize probably when I wake up every morning, just to see how the clouds are looking from Lake Erie, and that kind of helps me determine where I'm going to go for that morning to shoot, or if I'm even going to go out. If it's super cloudy and overcast, I might say, hey, I'm going to sleep in, I'm tired. But those apps, Cleveland webcams, I know Channel 3, WKYC Channel 3 has a good one to get the westward view of the city for sunsets and checking the sky there. And then, like I said, there's one off Lake Erie that is really good. And the Weather Bug has a couple different cameras throughout the area. They have one in Akron, one in Ashtabula, one in Brunswick, actually. So it's cool to kind of see how the sky's looking in different areas. And that's super helpful, at least in my eyes. But we'll jump into a little bit of some of my favorite locations. I know that there's some people that like to shoot photography, and I mentioned, or photography, of course you guys like to shoot photography, that's why you're here, landscapes and cityscapes, and I just want to share a couple of my favorite locations that I go to for sunrises and sunsets. Lakewood Park is one of my favorites for sunrise. Definitely recommend checking all these out if you haven't been in and around Cleveland. These are some solid spots. Great views of the city, as well as just beautiful utilization of our wildlife, whether it's metro parks or trails or the towpath. all these different locations are so connected, or so all over the place. It's super cool. So Lakewood Park is one of my favorites for sunrises. You get a nice view of the city. You get a nice view of Lake Erie. And the sun can set, kind of moves across right behind the city from that angle. So definitely one of my favorite places to go. And regardless of sunrise or sunset, Lakewood Park's a solid place to go if you're looking to get outside and enjoy the weather. Huntington Beach is right close to where I just moved, so I go there. I ride my bike over there all the time, but it's super beautiful. They have the rocks that go into Lake Erie that you can go and walk on. Definitely, and be a little cautious in the winter. There's been a couple times last year where I slipped on ice, and it was kind of embarrassing, but thank God no one's around at like 6 in the morning when you're shooting sunrises. So the only person that knows is you guys now and myself. So I'll take that as a win. But Huntington Beach Park is super beautiful. Lake Erie's there. You have a nice beach. You also get to see a lot of people kayaking, enjoying water sports in the summer. So that's definitely a cool thing to see. Edgewater Park, probably the most popular park in and around Cleveland. You got the Cleveland script sign there. You got the typical view of the city with Lake Erie, but that's also a great location. Super accessible, and I like Edgewater Park too because there's a couple different scenes and views of the city that I like to get. There's the typical one with the Cleveland script sign up on the hill, but you can go walk down closer to the water. You can be over on the beach, Perkins Beach. There's a couple different parking spots that you can go to get some different views. So I definitely recommend people to obviously enjoy that main view of the city from Edgewater, but to walk around if you have time and check out some different compositions there. The Foundry is probably one of my favorite and least known areas. It's actually right over there in that picture with the Cleveland script sign. But you get some great reflections through the water with the Cuyahoga River right there, as well as you see a lot of kayakers and canoes and boats that come up and down the river, so that makes for fun compositions as you're shooting photography. And it's just a really nice, relaxing area to take in a beautiful sunrise from. So definitely the Foundry is one of my favorite locations, one of my go-to spots when I'm planning stuff. Heritage Park is probably the second most iconic view of the city. It's the one with the bridge coming out, and you have that. And they're actually recently remodeling the area in and around Heritage Park to make it more boating accessible. They're adding some docks, some loading areas for kayaks and canoes. So that's good. If you're into that, it's probably going to be a cool place to check out, both from a photographer standpoint, but also from a nature and enjoying kind of the different things there. So Heritage Park is great. And then Rocky River Reservation, probably my favorite place to bike and run and kayak and canoe through, right by my house too. But they have the Fort Hill Stairs, which are those massive stairs that I still get out of breath every single time I go up them in and that's in North Homestead. But definitely one of my favorite spots to take in. I've gotten some cool views of the stairs and wildlife in and around that area. So that's definitely really cool. So those are my top places for sunrises, and then we move into sunsets. The Hope Memorial Bridge, I love capturing the Guardians, the statues. And that's really where the Hope Memorial Bridge is those 8 Guardian statues. So that's one of my favorite places to go. There's a street near there that I can park on and walk up to the area, and just some of the views that you get from this spot with the Guardian statues, the Cuyahoga River winding through the bridge, are absolutely stunning, especially at sunset. So that's one of my must-see places to check out. There's also North Coast Harbor right by the Rock Hall, which is another great view to if you can find parking down there and walk around. It's definitely a sight to see. They have a new land bridge that connects you to a different portion. There's the William G. Mather ship that's docked over there. That's a museum through the Great Lakes Science Center now. So that's a really cool spot to take in. You get some nice reflections. You have a Cleveland script sign. Sunsets there, especially in the summer months, are absolutely stunning. So definitely recommend there. Abbey Road, Cleveland script sign, that's right off of Abbey Road as you head into Tremont. You have the towpath right there. So if you're into walking, biking, cycling, that's definitely a great place to park your car, go up and down the path. You can go stop at for a brew at Brewdog down in the flats as well, and then come back for a sunset. But that's a great spot to check out, and I always bring my camera when I'm in and around that area. And then the flats, the West Bank area, not the East Bank with all the clubs and the party scene. I'm a little too old for that, so I don't go over there. But on the flip side of the I know you guys are laughing. Hey, you guys are still young at heart. My bedtime's like at 8 or 9 in the afternoon. So, but no, the flats on the west bank where the aquarium is, and you have shooters and everything. There's a strip club over there, but just I don't care what you guys are into, but I don't go there. Yeah, there's the west bank of the flats area is a super cool place to photograph. You got a view of the city right over there by Jacobs Pavilion, as well as the flats sign and the bridge that goes over the Cuyahoga River. So definitely, those are some of my spots, my favorite spots to photograph there. So yeah, so before I jump into a couple of my favorite stories surrounding photography, I want to give some tips and tricks. Feel free to not use any of these. You guys are been around photography for forever, but it's just some lessons that I've picked up in the past few years since I picked up a camera, and a lot of it isn't really built on technicalities when it comes to shooting and ISO and shutter speed and aperture. It's really a little bit of how I approach photography and really try to capture these different images. So the first one is consistency is everything. When I started shooting in January of 2021, I had no idea where it was going to go. I went in and just wanted to learn something new and wanted to push myself in a different way. And building that consistency to say, you know, I'm going to go out every morning, or I'm going to go try to shoot one photo a day, or I'm really going to dedicate some time, was a big change and a big mindset that I took on and helped me get better. And I know, especially now, as life gets busier and busier and people move around in the holidays, and you don't want to wake up in the morning because it's cold outside, and it's so hard to lose, or so easy to lose sight of those goals and that consistent mindset when life is throwing a billion different things at you every day. So just making a little time, even if it's 20 minutes, that's the cool thing about sunrises and sunsets. They're only 20 minutes is the peak color. That's really where it's going to go. So it's really obviously you have to drive to a location and do some planning and prep, but really it's 40 minutes each day if there's a good sunrise and sunset. And that was time that I tried to dedicate to myself to work on this craft, and it really was a big part of how I grew as a person as well as a photographer. Use your resources. So I mentioned some of those apps that I use that help me plan and prep for those days, but resources don't stop there. It's really, resources are anything from utilizing YouTube. I don't have a formal background in photography. I've learned everything that I have kind of picked up with photography through trial and error, YouTube videos, talking to friends. I know we were talking about Pixel Connection in Avon Lake. That's one of the stores that I love to go to, and I partner with a lot. And they're super great people, and they've taught me so much about photography over the years. That's super cool and super exciting. And so it's a work in progress. You never are going to be at the point where you get up in the middle of the night or get up to shoot and say, I'm the best photographer in the world. Photography is a craft that you're always trying to get better at and learn. And it's a craft that you don't hit a mark and you say, I'm there, I made it. It's always an evolution. There's different types, there's different styles, and that's the cool thing about the craft. So definitely utilize your resources. Utilize the photo society, the people around you. Ask questions, go out and shoot with people, have a good time, just smile through it all. It's a fun time. Think outside the box when you're shooting. I'll get into a story here in a second about some of one of my shots, but don't be locked into just one shot. So many times when I was starting out, I said, I'm going to get one sunrise photo and that's going to be the shot I get, or I'm going to get this fireworks photo and that's what I'm going to get. And I've actually left those moments with different shots I didn't even know I was going to be grabbing there. It's just what happened in the spur of the moment, or where my creativity went as I was exploring that one shot that I went in wanting to get. So definitely be open to that. Don't be super rigid in the sense of I can only shoot this one thing, or I'm going out to bird and grab some shots of birds. I can't take a shot of a person. Like that would be like against the rules. No, there's no rules when it comes to that. Be willing to think outside the box and try some different techniques and new things. That's why I said talk with others, build a community. Some of my favorite photos and the memories behind those photos aren't necessarily because of the photos that I went out to grab initially. It's because I met some really cool people, or I had a really funny experience throughout that moment that makes that photo memorable. So that's definitely something that I always take very seriously, is being able to go to a situation and know that, yeah, I'm going to get that photo or that beautiful sunrise or sunset, but you never know who you're going to run into. You never know who you're going to meet, who's going to ask you, like, hey, are you a photographer, as you're carrying a camera. Like, I don't just carry a camera wherever I go. Like, I'm not a photographer or anything. But there's always going to be those moments where you get to meet some people, and that's the beauty of this craft and the area that we're in. So, and then also photograph what you enjoy. I have a lot of people message me or email me or talk to me or call me up on the phone and say, you know, Gabe, I love your landscapes. I'm a race car photographer, but I really want to do landscapes or like, how are, like, you do this stuff? I really enjoy landscape or race car photography, but landscapes are something that interests me. Don't ignore the obvious. If you love shooting race cars or you love shooting portraits, don't ignore that, but don't be kind of limited to just that space. Always look to grow, always look to try a different area. Photograph what you enjoy in the moment. And if for a couple of months you're really feeling landscapes and you don't want to do portraits or you don't want to do street photography, that's okay. You can ebb and flow. There's nobody or no rule that says that once you're a landscape photographer, you're always a landscape photographer. You can always kind of think outside the box and try new things. So those are some of the tips and tricks that I've learned. Now we get into some of the fun stuff, I think. So a couple of my stories. So hopefully I don't bore you too much with these, but one of my favorite photographers that I really look up to, and I looked up to him since I started photography, his name's Dave DiCello. He's a Pittsburgh photographer. He's legit the Pittsburgh photographer. Like everybody knows who this guy is. He really does a great job capturing the city and does a lot of stuff, sunrises, sunsets, moving around, doing different photography. And one of the series that he does in Pittsburgh is the Pittsburgh Snow Globe series, where he goes to different locations and utilizes a flash to make it almost look like, when it's snowing, it looks like a snow globe. The different flakes that are falling look almost like they look fake, but they're actually real. It's just utilizing a flash and really blowing that out a little bit. So I saw his work, and he's a big inspiration to me, and I actually got to connect with him a couple months ago, actually, over the summer, which was really cool to see. It was a very full circle experience for myself. But he did something like the Pittsburgh Snow Globe series, so I really wanted to do that for Cleveland, and that's kind of where I got that inspiration from. So these are some shots from the Christmas Story house, which is recently for sale. So if you have a couple million and want to buy it, hit me up. I might be able to grab some photos of it. But yeah, it's just been a fun experience to be able to utilize flash and my imagination and creativity to come up with some of this stuff. So this is one of my favorite series, especially at this time of the year as we get into the holidays and the winter months. That makes winter look a little bit more glamorous than probably what it actually is in Cleveland, Ohio. So that's one of my favorite series. This is one of my favorite shots. And like I said, some of my favorite shots don't necessarily come from the image. It comes from the experience or getting there. So I don't know. Do we have a few Cleveland Guardians baseball fans in the house? Okay, cool. They made it pretty far in the series, so I'm ready for next year already. But this shot is one of my favorites, and a tradition from my dad grew up as a big baseball fan. So baseball was always the sport that we played around the house, and opening day was a very special moment between him and his grandma, my grandma, before she passed away and when he was growing up. So baseball has always been looked at as like the sport in my household growing up. So when I got tickets to go to this year's opening day, the first Guardians opening day ever, I knew exactly the photo I wanted to get. And it was this photo or close to it. But I was thinking about this. I talked to my friends who still work for the team, and they gave me the time of, the flyover coming over, this coming down over at 7 o'clock in like 10 seconds. It's very exact. It's very precise. And, I was locked in. I was ready to go. But the people who weren't locked in were my friends that I was hanging out with the day before, or earlier in the day. We were down closer to downtown Public Square, having a good time before the game. And I kept looking at my watch anxiously because I was like, oh, it's 6 o'clock. The flyover is happening at 7 o'clock. It's 6:05. Finally, I was able to persuade my friends to go from our one friend's house and walk over finally to the game. So we're walking over there. It's about 6:20 in the afternoon. Game starts at 7:05. The flyover is at 7 o'clock and 10 seconds. I'm starting to sweat a little bit. Like, I'm wanting to get this shot. I've told them all the time, like, I need to get this shot. This shot is, like, the one shot I want to get. They're like, oh, we're going to get it. We're going to get it. It's fine. But they did not show the same amount of alertness as I was trying to kind of get over to the ballpark. So 6:25, we finally start walking over there. We get to the ballpark about 6:40. As you know, I don't know if anybody's been to opening days before, but they are packed. Everybody's there, especially at 6:40. Like, people are still going through the gates. And we walk up to the one gate over by the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse, and the lines are so long. And I'm like, shoot, how am I going to get this shot? Like, how is this going to happen? So then we decided to move over to the center field gate, hoping that maybe the lines are a little better. They're actually longer because people go from over there in that area. So the lines are super long. It's about 6:42, 6:43. I'm like, how the hell am I going to get into the stadium? Like, I need to go through security. I have a camera. This is crazy. I do feel a little guilty for doing this, but as we were walking over to one of the lines, I saw a friend that was closer in line that she was like, oh, hey, Gabe, how's it going? And I was like, Bailey, what's up? I kind of like move over to Bailey, and I'm like, can I just like kind of sneak in here a little bit? And she's just like, what are you doing? I'm just like, my friends suck. They're super, my friends are not my friends anymore right now. I need to get this shot. You're closer. You're now my new friend because you're closer in line to the front of this stadium. Do you mind if I slide in here? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm sorry. I just had to do what I had to do in the moment. So, but still, it's about 6:47. We're still in line. Bailey and I are chopping it up, and I'm also like sweating profusely because I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get in here. And then I brought my friends with me too, so they were still there in the moment. We're going through lines. We're getting closer to the front of the line. Finally, we get to at 6:56, 4 minutes, 6:56, we get to the front of the line, and they finally scan our tickets. But I still have to go through security, and there's a long line going through the security sign. So I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. Do I have to get this flyover shot from like right over here? Like, I don't know how this is going to happen. Finally, it was like an angel from the Lord. A new security guard opened up a new line to get through, to go through. I look back at my friend, and he's like, go. So I like walk over, and first person in line at 6:58, go through the security turnstile area. They say, like, have a good game, like, enjoy. I have my camera. I look back at my friend Justin. He's like, run. So I book it from center field all the way up here. I think I made it there like 6:59 to get this shot. And I was exhausted. I was definitely not in the best shape to be running up 5 or 6 stories of stairs to get to this spot. But it will always be a special place in my heart. And when I went to go meet my friends who were profusely late to this situation, they did kind of make it better. They had a summer shandy waiting for me. I don't even like summer shandies, but it tasted really good in the moment. So there's that story why this is so special. This is kind of another story that I have. It was one day. It was actually on one of my friend's dad's birthdays. I was leaving work downtown, and it was one of those October storms that you sometimes see where the clouds are super crazy, and you know that it's going to rain, and it's going to rain big. But it's just, you look out your window, and you're like, man, these clouds are crazy. That's what I saw when I was leaving work that day, and my one friend, it was his dad's birthday, and they were going out to dinner that night. So I had some time to kill. It was like 5 o'clock. We weren't meeting till about 7. So I said, I'm going to go grab my camera. And I saw these clouds and everything. So I said, I'm going to go mosey my way onto the Hope Memorial Bridge and try to get some shots. So I got these 2 shots that I'm super, they were some of my favorite shots to this day. Just with the clouds and the Guardian and the boat going down the river, and the clouds were crazy. I would have been happy if these were the shots that I got from that day. I would have said, this is a cool moment. But there's one thing that at this moment, back in October of 2021, that was on my radar. And when I saw big storms like this, I said, one thing I want to capture is lightning. I want to capture lightning. That was the one thing that was on my list. And I was like, okay. I was grabbing these shots, seeing if there was ever going to be some lightning that moved into the area over the skyline. And I looked over to my left at the time, off closer probably to like Rocky River, over west. I started to see some lightning bolts. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Maybe I'll have a shot to shoot some lightning. But I'm standing on the Hope Memorial Bridge. I didn't bring my tripod because I didn't think I was going to see lightning. So I didn't have my tripod at the moment. I'm also like not dressed the best. Like normally if I was to shoot lightning, I'd want to be close to my car so I can go wait in there and not have to worry in case it starts like the skies open up and it gets super rainy and cloudy. So I wasn't the best prepared. All of a sudden, these clouds are moving in super quick. I start to see the lightning. I'm waiting to see if, hey, maybe if it's going to move closer. All of a sudden, it starts downpouring. It's soaked. It's crazy. And you start to see lightning going off all around. And I'm just like, man, I hope I can maybe get a shot of lightning, but I don't have my tripod. I don't have change of clothes. I'm legit just carrying my camera. So it was actually this camera right here. I ended up taking my jacket off. I mentioned that I always keep a jacket in my car. I ended up taking off my rain jacket. I was already getting soaked anyway, so it didn't really matter. But I took off my jacket. I took this camera. I set it on this railing of the bridge, covered it with my coat, and started to set a timer just to see if maybe a long exposure timer, if I can maybe get something. And I'm waiting there. I'm getting soaked. I'm like, I got to go see my friend Justin. It's his dad's birthday, but I'm going to go sit in the restaurant soaked out of my mind. I hope I have to get a shot of lightning soon enough. Just like that, I am sitting there, and all of a sudden I see a strike of lightning right by the city. And I'm like, God, I hope I got that on the camera. And I then went in to look at my camera roll from saved shots, and I was able to see this shot. And at that point, it was great. I was so excited. I was soaked. I ended up calling Justin and said, hey, man, what size pants and shirt do you wear? I think I can maybe squeeze. I'm soaked right now. But this is probably one of my favorite shots that I've gotten just with the lightning and the story behind it. That's why never lose your camera, never lose your coat. Always carry something with you to cover your bag in case. And don't forget your tripod either. If you're going to go shoot lightning, don't forget your tripod in your car. That was a time shot, yeah. This was a 5-second long exposure. That was on the bridge, covered by my jacket. Yeah, it was a very lucky shot there. But then the last story, and then we'll open it up to questions. But this is one of my shots. Like I mentioned, I love shooting the moon. The moon is something that I just always enjoyed framing in different situations. And I went out that night, and this was the shot I wanted to get. I wanted to get the moon above the Guardian statue. It was rising about 4 or 5 in the afternoon, so it was still very light out. It was cool to kind of take in and see. But this is what I wanted to get. I wanted to get it right over the Guardian statue. But what I really didn't realize is, like I mentioned, you go out to shoot one thing and your creativity and your eye might take you in a different direction. And I got this shot and I was happy with it, but then I started walking. This is over by the Cuyahoga River down in the Foundry area. I started walking up and down the river. Just was a beautiful day. Just kind of seeing, is there anything else to photograph? And I ended up moving a little bit, probably from where I originally was lined up ready to shoot. I moved probably a quarter of a mile down the river, and I started to see the moon in a different way and lining up in a different way. And I ended up seeing this shot, which is one of my favorites to this date, just because of the framing, just because of just the trees and the where the moon was. Did not have an idea of that going out and kind of shooting there. But this was a happy accident. And just looking at it, it's definitely one of my favorites just because of that experience. I ended up actually meeting a family who was cross country going across the city or the entire country, and they stopped in Cleveland to check it out. And being able to, I took their photo. I got to talk to them a little bit. They were big fans of Cleveland, just being here for a couple of days. So that was a really cool connection to make. But just this photo is a reminder that you never know what you're going to see if you go out and kind of shoot something that could have your eyes set on one prize, but be led to a different one. So that's kind of one of my mottos I live by. So that's really it. Kind of before I open it up to questions, I want to thank you all for having me and kind of being open to hear me talk and listen to my annoying voice for about an hour. So I appreciate it. I will say, I know everybody's photographers here, but I did recently launch 2 Cleveland calendars. If you're interested for gifts for family or friends that love Cleveland, I have 2 different Cleveland calendars that can be purchased on my website. There's a 12-month photo calendar with a picture from each month of the past year, as well as a Cleveland sunrise and sunset calendar for my favorite sunrises and sunsets. And then this is something new that I've tried this year, but doing Cleveland holiday cards and postcards. If you're interested in some holiday cards for family, friends, or just looking for postcards to send to people that love Cleveland, I have these 2 options on my website too. So just want to thank you again for all your support, letting me come and speak, and we'll open it up for questions now.
Gabe, we thank you. And by the way, just if you want to get to his website, GabeWasylko.com, I think, but just Google.
Yes.
You could Google Gabe Wasylko if you forget all this too, and the first thing that comes up is his website as well, too. So that's how to find it. So for questions, I'm going to pass the mic on so the people at home could hear you. Good. Any questions? Wait.
I'm going to sit down for the questions.
Yeah. Do you use something like Photographer's Ephemeris to get that moonshot?
Yes.
And get the placements. Which software or app do you use?
Yeah, so I do use an app. I forgot to actually add that. I was thinking about that. I forgot to add it in the presentation, but I do use an app called, I'm blanking on the name right now, so I'm looking it up. It is Sun Surveyor. So I don't remember if it's free or not in the App Store. I think I had to pay like $10 for it. But I use it. It actually tells you where, if you place your location, like I want to shoot here, it will show you where the moon's rising. And then they also have a feature too that if you go to a location and hold up your phone, it will show a live view and then where the moon's rising to or setting. So I use that whenever I'm looking to kind of frame the sun or frame the moon in different shots like that. So
I'm sorry, it's called Sun.
Sun Surveyor.
Okay. Have you ever tried any of the others?
I haven't. That's the only one that I've used, and it's done the trick for me so far. But I like you said, I've heard of Photo Emirates or TPE. Yeah. I've heard about those and definitely are. Yeah. There's definitely a ton of good ones out there.
Sun
so.
Surveyor. I'm going to mark it down here before I forget.
Okay, perfect. Good question.
Your cameras, are they weather sealed?
I think some of my lenses are. Some of my lenses are. The cameras, I try not to push it, but the lenses are weather sealed at least. So.
Yeah. And what about IBIS? Do you have IBIS in there? So
yes.
when you forget your tripod, you don't have to worry too much.
So it's funny because it's definitely with my GFX 100S. It's a very slow shutter. It shoots at max, like it's like a 5-second shutter. So it can shoot burst up to 5 seconds. The XT4 is a lot quicker. It's a 15 shot per second shutter. And that has built-in IBIS, but really with both options, I try to use the tripod. I don't like to lower my shutter speed too much because you start to get some blur or some shake. So the IBIS is solid, but it's not foolproof, I guess, is the way that I'll probably say that. So use a tripod when you can.
I wanted to ask you, have you done any snorkeling or scuba diving with the camera? And if you did, do that.
You know, I'd love to if it's someone else's camera. If it's my
Okay.
camera, I'd be a little nervous. But no, I haven't done anything like that.
All right.
But I know that there's ways, weatherproofing, weather sealing bags that you can throw on your camera, different techniques and ability that you can use. It's on my bucket list, but I haven't gotten there quite yet. So. You guys are being nice with the questions so far.
I was wondering what like editing software you use and like what approach you take to like editing. Like what approach you take to editing your photos.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I use Lightroom CC, so Lightroom Classic. I know there's a couple different softwares that you can use. I know people use Capture One, people use different apps on their phone. I like Lightroom. That's just the one I've always used and kind of gotten up. And the process with editing is actually a good question. So a big thing that I do with my photos is I only give myself a minute to edit a photo. I don't want to stand there and edit it for hours or 15, 20 minutes. So I actually edit all my photos right after I shoot them in my car. So I'll bring out my laptop in my car, put on some music, grab my coffee and my coaster over there, and then I'll just say, hey, I got a minute. Let me edit this photo I just shot. And that's where some of the photos that are on the background there, some of the shots that we went through are all through there. And I just really, when I first started photography and I was taking photos and doing stuff like that, I found that I was spending way too much time editing and way too much time trying to make the perfect photo, not capture what was there. And this 1 minute rule that I give myself really forces me to shoot it in the moment, capture that moment that I saw with my eyes as well as my camera right then and there. And from there, it's just been a really great experience to be able to really authentically show what each photo was in the moment that I saw it. So, good question.
Do you ever make exceptions to your 1 minute rule?
I'm trying to think. Honestly, I mean, there's been times where I've gone back and I think probably the 1 minute rule is broken if I have like a little speck on my lens and I have to go into Photoshop and remove the speck, and that takes a little bit longer than a minute. But I'd say probably 95% of the time if I'm shooting landscapes and stuff like that, it's all kind of that 1 minute rule. So.
Your medium format camera.
Yes.
How many megapixels?
It's 102 megapixels.
102.
Yes.
That's incredible. Okay,
It's-
well, all right.
It's fun. It's great because you get the extra detail in your work and your camera, and you can blow it up and kind of zoom in really close. And the reason I switched over to medium format was a lot of my clients and people I work with were looking to either get large prints or blow up photos on walls, and I wasn't 100% confident that I could do that with my X-T4 with the quality that I wanted to produce. So I switched over to medium format. It's super great. I love the extra detail and the texture and just the vibe that you get from it. The negative is it takes up so much space on your computer, so many hard drives and memory cards. So you can always dumb it down a little bit in the back end of your camera and make them smaller, but overall it's a cool experience.
Okay, so the other camera, is the other camera a crop sensor? I was looking at the lenses.
Yes.
Okay.
So Fujifilm makes medium format, and they also make crop sensor, APS-C sensor for their other cameras. So the X-T4 and then the X100V are both crop sensor.
Okay, now the other question I wanted to ask is, how do you get into the stadiums with a camera? I mean, are
Yeah.
you bringing the little teeny tiny one over there? I mean, are they allowing you to bring an interchangeable lens? That's what I'd like to know.
Yes, that's a good question. So from what I found, and definitely I recommend before you take a camera into any stadium, go on their website. They normally have prohibited items to double check. Off the top of my head, the Guardians and the Cavs, I think the Browns you can bring in any type of camera with lens. The Cavs and the Guardians are, I believe, under 70 millimeters.
Okay, that's the lens.
Yes, the lens. It doesn't matter with the camera per se. Like I've taken, and I like to like shoot a lot of my stadium pics wide. So this is the setup that I've taken in the 10 to 24 with my XT4, and they haven't had a problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. That's a good question. I don't want to get anybody in trouble here, so definitely happy to share that. Yes, question.
Okay.
What camera and lens did you use for that stadium shot? At the Guardians game,
Yes.
what camera and lens did you use?
It was this,
was-
just right here.
Is that a
Yep.
medium format?
No.
No?
This is just the APS-C, the XT4. So this was, the
Oh.
lens and camera I used for that. And then
What-
also
What lens?
the 10 to 24 f4.
Okay.
So that's the widest one that they make, that Fujifilm makes. Well, actually, no, it's the second widest. They have I think it's an 8 to 16 millimeter f2, which is great for astrophotography. But it's also like a $2,000 lens, and I probably didn't want to drop that money right then. So I just went with this one, and it's done. I've gotten the Guardians picture. I've gotten a couple Cavs pictures with it. So
You must have used it wide open on that stadium shot then.
yep.
At 10, right?
Yep, always 10. I think I
Okay.
probably shot it at like f13 or f11, just to try to keep everything in focus and had that shutter super quick. So
Yeah. And is that a 2.8 lens or?
this is f4.
Did pretty good.
Yeah, no. It was definitely. I try not to shoot unless I'm shooting portraits. I won't keep it up at like f2 or f2.8. So, or sports photography. If I'm using some of those telephoto lenses, I'll try to keep it as open as possible. But
Thanks.
I'm trying to think
Yeah.
here, what it is in a full frame. Is that about a 14 millimeter?
yeah, it would probably be close to like a 16 to 28, probably. Yeah, 1.5. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for a Nikon, it would be like a 14 millimeter then, if you
Mhm.
wanted that wide angle shot.
There's
Okay.
definitely a lot wider lenses that you can use, especially on full frame, that you get a little bit extra reach. But Fujifilm, really the widest that they make is this like 10 to 24. That's not super use-based sense, like with like the sense of astrophotography, but it does the trick. It does the trick.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And that's also another good question, kind of going off that, is sometimes when you open, if you get like a wide lens, it can almost look distorted, almost like fish eyes. So this combo right here does a really nice job of shooting wide, but not too wide to the sense it looks distorted. So
The Fujis are well known for their film simulations.
yes,
Do you ever use those?
I don't use the film simulations, but that's something that I want to kind of, I've messed around, I've tried some different things, and really I wanted to kind of, that's one of the things when I picked up the X100V, I was really excited about, because they do have the film simulations, and this is really like just a camera that I want to go out and shoot and have fun with and capture those moments. So I definitely want to dive into some film simulations here and try that. But the colors with Fuji are absolutely stunning. That's one of the my favorite things about using the brand, is just the colors you get are so nice. So cool. Any other questions? We got another one right here.
I lived on and off in San Diego, so I'm just dying to know where you're going to be photographing.
Did I mention I'm going to San Diego?
Yes, you
Yeah, it did. I don't know what I'm going to photograph there. I always open to suggestions.
I have tons of suggestions.
Please fill me. Please
And
fill me
there-
in.
And there are some photo clubs out there. If you hit it on a Tuesday night, right, then there's a couple clubs out there.
Well, I'll be there Monday through Thursday, so should be fun, and it's really a trip that I'm just going to explore and see what I find. So flights were cheap there, so San Diego was.
Well, Point Loma, I would go to Sunset Hills,
Uh-huh.
which is near there.
Awesome.
If you wanted to see surfers, I would go to Inland Sea Beach.
Beautiful.
And I would go to Balboa Park.
Yes, I love it. I'm gonna grab those from you before we leave. Perfect. Any other questions? Well, I will say, if there are any other questions, feel free. My website has my email and contact information on it, so feel free to reach out and introduce yourself or ask any questions, or if I can support and help you guys in any way, please let me know. But thank you so much for letting me come and speak with you all and taking some time to celebrate Cleveland and photography. It really means a lot. So thank you. Awesome.
That is